First up, let's get you the latest from the Israel-Hamas war. Now, Israel says it has now further expanded its ground operations in Gaza. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected the idea that an international force could be responsible for security in the Gaza Strip after the war, saying that it's only the Israel Defense Forces that should retain control for disarmament of Gaza.
עזה חייבת להיות מפורזת. וכדי שעזה תהיה מפורזת, יש רק כוח אחד שיכול לדאוג לפירוז הזה. והכוח הזה הוא צבא ההגנה לישראל. שום כוח בינלאומי לא יכול להיות אחראי לכך.
The IDF says it has been operating in Hamas strongholds in the areas of Jabalia, Shujaiya, and Khan Yunis, where it has destroyed militant infrastructure and eliminated Hamas militants. Now, as the Israeli offensive expands to southern Gaza, the city of Khan Yunis is particularly witnessing huge devastation. The IDF described the past day as the most intense day of combat in the 5 weeks of ground operations against Hamas militants. Now, in what appeared to be the biggest ground assault in Gaza, truce broke down. Israel said its troops, who were backed by warplanes, had reached the heart of Khan Yunis and also surrounded the city.
בחלוף 60 ימים מפרוץ הלחימה, כוחותינו מחתרים את מרחב ח'אן יונס בדרום הרצועה. אנחנו ממשיכים במקביל להעמיק את ההישג גם בצפון הרצועה.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group has released a video showing its militants fighting in Khan Yunis. Militants can be seen shooting guns and operating rocket launchers in the video. The offensive also continues in northern Gaza. IDF has released a video showing Hamas's continued exploitation of civilian infrastructure in the Gaza city. It shows how the Al-Shati camp in the city is being used by Hamas. IDF says schools and civilian buildings are used to launch rockets, store weapons and carry out attacks against Israel.
נראה לנו כמו מקום תמים לחלוטין, שבפועל זאת עמדה לניהול לחימה. היה פה ממש חמ"ל בתוך המשרד של המנהלת, שבתוכו מנהלים לחימה ומפעילים פה את כל המערכת. ופה ממש פה במקום הזה נמצאו אמצעי לחימה רבים ועוד תשתיות של חמאס שממש עזרו להם להכין את כל
Amid intense fighting, Hamas has categorically ruled out negotiations. It says no further prisoner or hostage exchange will take place until Israeli strikes stop.
ونجدد هنا التأكيد أنه لا تفاوض ولا تبادل إلا بوقف العدوان على شعبنا وقطاع غزة الصامد الصابر. ونحمل هنا نتنياهو كامل المسؤولية عن حياة الأسرى والمحتجزين الصهاينة بسبب تعطيله استكمال صفقة التبادل واستئنافه للعدوان على غزة.
Israel has now revised the number of hostages that are held captive by Hamas to 138. Previously, Israeli officials had said 137 hostages were still inside the Gaza Strip and included 20 women and 2 children. Israel has not provided the details concerning the 138th confirmed hostage or how Israeli authorities were able to verify their status. On the other hand, the US has taken a rare action against Israeli settlers. It's now imposing visa bans on people involved in violence in the West Bank. Officials say this has been done after several appeals for Israel to do more prevent violence by Jewish settlers. The visa restriction policy targets individuals believed to have been involved in undermining peace, security or stability in the West Bank, either by committing violent acts or actions that restrict civilians' access to essential services and basic necessities.
Today, as President Biden recently warned, The United States is taking action to address this escalating violence in the West Bank by implementing a new visa restriction policy under Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act.
Now, WION's correspondent Susan Tehrani sends us this report from New York on the recent and quite notable sanctions the United States is levying on Israeli settlers. Take a look.
Imposing sanctions against several dozen Israeli settlers demonstrates how concerned the Biden administration is of the possibility of the violence spilling over outside of the Gaza Strip, and the White House's frustrations about how the Israeli government is simply not doing enough regarding these extremist settlers. The State Department also announced that a number of Palestinians will also be sanctioned. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in a press briefing on Tuesday, said that some of their immediate family members may also be subject to these restrictions. But the news didn't come out of nowhere. About 2 weeks ago, in a Washington Post op-ed, President Biden said that the U.S. was planning to issue visa bans on extremist settlers, and it's not unprecedented that this has happened. However, it is the first time that the U.S. government is sanctioning Israeli extremist settlers since the Clinton administration.